On my birthday, 7th of September, Insomniac dropped one of my favorite video games that year.
Right?
And we will make America great again! God bless you!
Spider-Man, PS4. I fell in love with this game. The soundtrack. The combat.
Damn!
The characters. The graphics. Okay, we don't talk about that. The swing, the beautiful animations. But as I played more and more, I started to realize that this game is so much like Batman Arkham. Oh God! Hear me out, okay? Batman Arkham City is the ideal Batman game, let's be honest. And in my opinion, it still holds up extremely well to this day. And we know this because Spider-Man borrows a buttload of ideas from it, or more of adapts from it. Which begs the question, which game is better? Now guys, I'm not gonna explain what happens in these stories. Why? Because it would add another half an hour into this video. I've been here for months, writing and rewriting this paragraph. Try to get it as concise as possible for you guys. But for you to fully understand it, I'd either have to speed through it or skip out on major plot details, which would just be a waste of everyone's time. If you want to know these stories, here's a 7-minute speed video of Batman's plot, and here's a 10-minute speed video explaining Spider-Man's plot. Yeah, you said it'd take 30 minutes, not 17. Shut your face! It's my video. Instead, I'm going to assume you know what happens in these stories. If you don't care about this section, or you don't know what happens in these stories, I suggest you skip to the other time section, because you're gonna have no idea what I'm talking about. Batman's plot is very ambitious, however it's quite hard to swallow. The fact that the government allowed criminals to run free in the slums doesn't seem like a possibility. Yet again, the way the game presents its story feels really natural, so your suspension of disbelief is still captured. The twists and turns, like the mayor of Gotham becoming the mayor of Gotham because of Hugo Strange. I messed up that line, but I'm going to keep going. Hugo Strange becoming the puppet for Ra's Glue, I'm gonna keep going. Clayface turning into the Joker. Let me digress. This is how you write a twist. Giving subtle clues within your story but not overt enough to make the player see what's coming. It's pretty basic, but not enough people do it. But I'm gonna go back to my point of this game feeling natural. These things I just explained to you is like mixing hard to swallow plot with Egyptian waters. They all mix in so well and are paced perfectly, so nothing in your story feels inherently forced. Despite the sheer insanity that happens, like battling Ra's al Ghul in a sand universe, the characters are also really engaging with the concept presented. The fact that the game has so many villains yet the pacing doesn't feel rushed is mind-blowing to me. Now we could go over all the characters, but they're all so distinct that could be an entire video of its own, which could be a possibility, but I just checked Word to Speech Converter and I'm already around 25 minutes. I'm going to try and at least respect your time, so I'm just going to go over the main highlights. The highlight of the story is the chemistry between Batman and Mark Hamill, praise be upon him. I mean, Joker. That is such a bad joke, oh my god. The way we see Joker cope with his life being on the line and still cracking jokes despite showing his desperation through his actions is memorizing. He poisons Batman and the entirety of Gotham just to make sure that Batman gets the cure. Whilst Batman tries to decide whether he should save Gotham or Talia, which is actually honestly pretty Sam Raimi one cliche bullcrap, but it just shows his character. His weird lust. Okay, Forget my point. Batman saying that he would have saved Joker despite all the crap he's done was a really engaging moment in the story and makes Joker just look like a fool when he stabs Batman in the arm, making him drop the cure. The characters are exactly what I expect from a comic book actually. Matter of fact, if this was a comic book, I would buy it right. Spider-Man's plot is nothing special. To oversimplify, two guys want revenge on rich guy that's wronged them, so one guy tries to kill rich guy and one tries to poison the city with what rich guy has made, hoping that rich guy will suffer for his crimes. Damn, if only I could actually oversimplify Batman Arkham City like that. The plot isn't as ambitious as what Arkham City was. In fact, I actually can't give a specific highlight or twist in the story that compares, because everything that happens in this game is quite predictable, at least to me. However, it does manage to present a story that's interesting in a way that still gets you intrigued, despite the feeling as not feeling as well paced as I want it to be. Kind of like how I'm just speeding over these sentences. People say, this game has like 20 villains. How are they not going to make that feel rushed? Batman made that work, along with its lot more ambitious story, ideas, and characters. Whilst it's not easy to juggle an orgy load of characters, Batman did it with flying colors. Or should I say, gliding colors. I've said this joke 3 times and it's still not funny. And that's what makes it ahead of Spider-Man right now. Because what really makes Spider-Man's story really fun to play through is just how lovable the characters are. First of all, this is the best adaptation of Spider-Man I've seen in media. Period. He's the nicest person in the world, he's nerdy, and the game steers away from making a mistake or making Spider-Man quippy, but so incessantly annoying.
Spider smut!
Oh, dude, pants! No one wants to see your junk.
Energy without limit!
And yet, still no pants.
I'm becoming unstoppable!
And you're still not wearing any pants.
Make it stop! Everyone is lovable, and there isn't a character that you wish just go die in a hole. Oh, god damn it. Silver Sable is so poorly written. She advertises herself as competent but loses devil's breath, gets mad at you, sends her army after you, and then last second when you're held at gunpoint, decides to team up with you. I put a Chris Brown joke in this video and my sister said it was too offensive, but I'm pretty sure I got my point across. Spider-Man does a better job with its heroes, whilst Batman does a better job with its villains. Both of these games construct these factors equally well, so that means the plot competition has to go to Batman Arkham City. Like I said, this is because of how much of a better way the plot is presented and how more ambitious it was compared to Spider-Man, making its world feel... We're not talking about the world. That's for our next topic. Haha! Segways! The city looks gorgeous. Okay, maybe not good. There's so much very detail in the city. The rooftops, the building interiors, even the subways are well detailed. If you think you've mastered... Oh, that was really good delivery. If you think... Okay, if you think you've mastered the game and you don't know where you are just by looking down, you have not played the game long enough. Because this game has so many lush layers of love and depth that when I came back from this game after 3 years, my mind still remembers this map perfectly. There are also a lot of side missions to keep the player rather invested in the city than distracted for a long time. In addition to that, the city presents the player with limitless possibilities with random stealth sections, barren streets where you can fight enemies, Riddler trophies that actually take away... What, 400 trophies?
Nani?
Matter of fact, the Riddler trophies in actuality get monotonous after a while. It has a little thing called hiding trophies in every nook and cranny you see.
Feeling and it's right there. And that's it.
Look! Why? Why are you testing? Apart from that, I really can't fault the world design. Sorry about that. Anyway, I was going to say, I really can't fault the world.
We're sitting out here in the cold.
Sorry, I was about to say, I really can't fault the...
Think they heard us?
This is too much. It's annoying when you're trying to get around the city and then all of a sudden some random knobhead from nowhere can talk about something you couldn't care less about. Admittedly, it's immersing at first, but then you wish there was an option to just turn it off. Anyway, there's not much I could really fault the Surely there's nothing Spider-Man PS4 could do to top the Spider-Man get the point. I don't care what a single one of you peasants say. No, not really. If the game is bigger than T-Series and there's nothing to do with it, I'm gonna stop caring within 10 minutes. Or most likely an hour. This game looks really good. But to be honest, there's not much to do in the world to keep yourself invested. You're more of distracted for the entire time. I could say I don't know where to start, but I've written the script, so I do know where to start. You have elaborate chases with villains. You stop cars and police chases. You take down enemy territories. You chase birds? Well, it's fun anyway, so I don't really care. You save Central Park from getting taken over. Disable bombs. Fix the, plumbing? Damn, Spidey's doing everything. Mate, you can take selfies with people. Unlike Batman.
Where's it?
Instead of getting radio signals from enemies you could forget about in the next 5 seconds, Spider-Man gets calls from charismatic characters that you actually care about that either further the plot or are just genuinely funny.
All right, Yuri, that's 4 down. Just Octavius and Lee left.
Something tells me they won't be as easy. They're only half our problem, though.
Overall, it feels more lighthearted and it feels a lot more lively. However, the city serves more as a place to traverse and fight and less of a detailed exploration experience, and more of an abundant and tedious exploration experience. Batman's open world is purposely claustrophobic. However, it still manages to get the player to do more. This is because Batman does one other thing that Spider-Man doesn't do with its side missions. It's called adding a story. Whether it's spoken or you're going through it, Batman manages to add a better sense of progression to its world because you're going through some sort of detailed story. Spider-Man's side missions last like 2 minutes. Spider-Man, go defuse the bombs. Spider-Man, fight these enemies. Spider-Man, help the ocean not get polluted. That's an actual side mission. I'm not kidding. Whereas Batman's more like, hey, find my phones and I'll progressively tell you my origin story and then you'll be able to find my hostages that I kidnapped. Or, hey, can you go through a series of detective sequences to find a highly trained assassin that's trying to kill political prisoners and then save a poor president on the last one? That's a lot more interesting. Open world developers, kids, take notes. Putting side missions in your story to make your world feel more developed and detailed despite its size is a really good idea. Spider-Man kinda does this with like Tombstone, I think, but it's nowhere near the complexity of Batman's side mission stories. Spider-Man's side missions aren't even engaging at times. You're going through the ocean to throw barrels in one, going through crowds with a drone and pressing one button. If Spider-Man had a better mixture of short-term and long-term side missions, this would be no contest. But keep in mind, these worlds aren't trying to accomplish the same thing, but I have to decide for who gets this point. And despite me kicking it down, I'm gonna pick Spider-Man. This is because of mainly 3 reasons. Spider-Man has a lot more to do that's actually fun. It perfectly adapts to the traversal system. It doesn't have 400 Riddler trophies. Okay, next section. This isn't really a focus of the game, so it actually really does fall short. Spider-Man's interior sections are pretty straightforward and extremely one-dimensional. Interior would be amazing. No, we don't. Switch up at times and would increase the variety even more, but they focus so much on an open world, they kind of treat it as like it's an afterthought almost. The Kingpin mission is an amazing highlight of the game, but later you got like the museum stealth section. I can't even remember the others. It's all really one-dimensional. I don't expect all the levels to be equally as cinematic as the first mission, but I do expect more than this. Interior missions in Spider-Man have proved to be really fun, so why isn't there more focus on here? Joseph, you're forgetting about the Mary Jane stealth. Shh. Okay, so you already know who's run this. Batman Arkham City manages to balance heavy detail of an open world and the interior designs of the game. The number of ways you could approach each level is great. A great example of this is when you can't go through the front doors to Joker's Brawler House, so you do what every normal person would have done. through the chimney. Did I mention that the chimney is simultaneously falling apart on the inside with burning lava underneath? Each section is structured beautifully with the ways you could use gadgets, the way you could go through stealth sections, and the amount of climactic entrances you can make. Oh my god. Each level feels different, and whilst they recycle levels, they put an interesting twist on it. Let's start with the mission when you have to take down the penguin. You hack in the facility, meet a dinosaur, fight through an arena of prisoners, fight a one-armed thug with a hammer, tread slowly on ice to avoid getting eaten by a shark, do a stealth section, and fight Solomon Grundy. So Batman doesn't just take the point. It kindly asks Spider-Man PS4 to give him the point, and then Spider-Man PS4, wallowing in its own shame, bows down and presents with no hesitation the point. This is terrible. Truly, how can Spider-Man PS4 come back from such an overwhelming defeat? Batman's traversal system's actually way better than people give it credit for. Let's start with the grappling boost. It's pretty self-explanatory. Enter a grappling hook and boosts you over ledges. This gadget's a really good idea, but I just wish it was worked on a bit more. Like, just a little bit extra vertical kick, man. That's all I need. I know they said it was a prototype and they fixed it in Arkham Knight with insane kick, but like, the Batmobile ruined that game, man. I don't want to talk about it. There are gliding mechanics present in the game that feel insanely good. Once you know how the mechanics work, you can glide for a pretty long time without actually using the grappling boost at all. For some reason, Batman doesn't take full damage though. Why don't you take full damage? You're human, plus the gliding system would be so much better because it would add so much extra tension. Rocksteady, take notes from the unqualified 16-year-old with 10 subscribers. It's such a simple system, but it takes so long to master. I also love how they combine the gliding with the combat system as well. You just feel so sick. You trash talking, boy. Wait, I'm sorry. Oh shit! I mean no exaggeration when I say this. This is one of the best traversal systems of history. The swinging feels so organic and rhythmic, man. It's almost like orgasm inducing. The swinging feels so organic because of how the physics are with Spider-Man's webs attaching the buildings and having just the right amount of weight on him. In addition, the animations are just presented with so much fluidity. I mean, just look. There's also other features they've added, like a point launch, where if you tap X at the right time, you keep the momentum and oh, it feels so sick. I haven't even talked about the wall running. I played this game at my friend's house when I didn't have a PS4, and they were disturbed at how much I adored the swinging system. However, it's not perfect. I'm no longer comparing this to Arkham City, I mean. Are you serious? Matter of fact, Spider-Man, you get points. That's not fair. Whose video is this again? Well, exactly. I can do whatever the hell I want. It's my video, and if you don't like it, make your own. Or you can't do whatever you want. You still have to abide by YouTube's terms of service. Oh, alright. Oh, you want smoke, alright? Put your hands up. Wait, what? I'm about to fold your ass. In fact, for this section of the review, I'm comparing Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man Web of Shadows to Marvel Spider-Man PS4. So proceed to listen to a kid who's almost played every single Spider-Man game that's ever released on the console since Spider-Man 1. It's honestly quite sad this is an achievement. Okay, so the swinging feels really automated. I know the point for the swinging is to be accessible, but why can't it present an option like Spider-Man 2 when it had an easy and manual swinging option? It's really easy to master Spider-Man PS4 swinging, and I just wanted to feel like there's a lot more to learn. It gets really boring after a while because there isn't really much to do. Spider-Man 2 swinging was clunky at first, but once you got used to it, you could pull off some amazing garbage. And even when you were good, you really wanted to master what other people could do. Secondly, you don't feel like you're going fast enough in Spider-Man PS4. In Web of Shadows and Spider-Man 2, you go at lightning speeds, almost to the point where the game would crash, but again, that's not the point. I wish you would just get a little faster. I mean, in Web of Shadows, you could do stuff like this. Thirdly, they didn't add full damage. Full damage adds more incentive to be good at swinging. Also, those dive bombs would feel even more satisfying if you're like 2 feet away from the ground to be a Spidey pancake. And finally, the animations aren't exaggerated enough. Batman Web Shadows had the perfect animations for Spider-Man web swinging. And whilst these animations we have are well animated, they're kind of boring in comparison. So yeah, make the animations more comic booky. I kind of stole those points from Purposeless Raptor Holes and Godzilla Mendoza. Those are good YouTubers, here are the links. Anyway, yeah, Spider-Man cleared the bar over Batman, you already knew that, so I'm basically just wasted your time. But I'm just getting you ready for the actual competition. Let me tell you this. I was stuck on this option for so long that when I called my friend over and asked him which combat system he thought he was better, he just stared at a video game screen. He didn't even answer me. I don't know what I can do, so I even made a table comparing these combat systems and I couldn't even come to a conclusion. But I'm writing the script now, so I guess I'm gonna have to wing it. So these combat systems are so good, I'm going to add a new comparison structure. We're going to have a subsection of combat, and whoever gets the most points during combat, we add a point to the main scoreboard. Alright, let's get into it. Enemy types in Spider-Man just blend in. They are very distinct in concept, but Spider-Man is so overpowered there's not a lot of thinking that goes into it. In fact, it's actually quite mindless. Like with the large enemies, you mostly can either throw something at them or web them up with some sort of gadget. With shields, you press circle, with crowbars, you uppercut, etc. Now the game encourages you to come at enemies in a different way. However, it doesn't come with a lot of risk. Plus with normal enemies, you're probably already doing most of these things. So most enemy types don't even compare to how Batman does it. Batman's combat system handles enemy types in a better way because it actually presents some sort of risk. Say if you have an armored enemy, you can stun them with a whip of his cape. Always found that a bit funny. And then JoJo them for ages. This can risk you to screw up if an enemy type with a shield or blade or Jesus Christ decides to butt in. So you can just insta-kill, neutralize them with circle and triangle once you're up to ×5 on your combat counter or in free flow focus mode. However, in free flow focus mode, you're more quick and agile, and insta-killing enemies cancels that free flow focus mode. On Batman, there's a better sense of high risk, high reward. I know Spider-Man aims to be more of an easier game than Batman, but the enemy types are more engaging and feel more distinct. Therefore, Batman wins the enemy type section. In Batman, the gadgets are cool, but the combat section doesn't really encourage you to use them that much. Batman's bare hands has a high risk, high reward factor, whereas the gadgets, you're just putting yourself at risk most of the time. Apart from the Batarang and maybe that electric gadget for sweet Lord of Jesus, I wasn't really using anything else. If I use the Batclaw, I risk getting hit right after with no reward. And if I use my explosives, I wouldn't really get that good of a result and would mostly just ruin my combo most of the time. In Spider-Man, every gadget has its own place. In fact, you can combine to get some pretty cool results. My favorite combination was the web bomb and the impact blast just to game end all the enemies in front of you. Whilst the gadgets do feel overpowered and some of them actually serve for the same function, at least you feel like you ain't risking your life every time you use them like Batman Arkham Cities. So Batman wins the gadget section. Sorry, I was a dumb idiot while reading, and Spider-Man, wins the gadget section. I am terribly sorry. This is simple, Spider-Man wins this by miles. With Batman, there's a lot of things you can do, but you can't string them as well as Spider-Man's. Not a lot of combat systems here will directly affect what you're about to do next, whereas Spider-Man presents you with so many options and doesn't make you feel overwhelmed to make the system feel unnatural. Therefore, Spider-Man wins. Batman wins this by a long shot. Surely the amount of distinct cool looking combat arenas and modifiers, yes, modifiers, that you can add can make combat a lot more interesting. Like removing the spider sense that Batman has, yes, weirdly, having insta-kill gadgets, having less health to ramp up the difficulty as a fresh breath of air. Whoa, I mixed that up. Bring some fantastical twist, just making you feel great. The combat arenas in Spider-Man are just New York City. Really? Like, sure, I guess you can have some arenas based in New York City, but can't you have some like in the prison? Or, oh my god, I'm about to compare this game to Amazing Spider-Man. Have an arcade where you can have some wacky ass environments. This combat system merits some good arenas. However, they're just so boring looking. My favorite arena from Batman Arkham City had you literally on a spinning clock. They weren't scared to pull some out of this world crap. Literally. Batman steals this point. Batman's combat is a lot less fast, and whilst you can switch targets during combat, the game doesn't make it feel nearly as good as Batman Arkham City's free-flowing. Batman Arkham City has a much better feeling of progression with one of its combat systems. It gets to the point where you can punch enemies down on the floor in... Spider-Man lacks this sense of progression, as the only thing you will get through combat is gadget refills, insta-kills, and health refills. And those are passive. Batman wants to realize that the better you do, the more decisions you can make, making it more exhilarating. Later in combat, you can take down multiple opponents on the ground, insta-kill, stun enemies with a circle of bats, break their weapons with your bare hands. Adding active upgrades in combat rather than passive is a genius idea. Therefore, Batman wins this round. Yes, this is my last resort. I get it, okay? This is not a fair criticism, but someone has to win this, okay? I have around 54 years of my life left. 1/3 of it estimated working, 1/3 of it estimated sleep, and 1/3 of it estimated free time. So I'm not gonna be serious for 90% of it, okay? Now let's get into this. Batman's fighting lines are good, but unfortunately, they constantly mean the same thing.
Bring it on. You want some?
I'm badass, and once you do feel badass, none of his fighting lines or quips personally get me moving, and when you get to these moves, so badass that the enemies stop fighting just to see you break the arms of their fellow comrades, and you have no fighting lines to compensate, I'm going to be disappointed. The enemy's fighting lines are quite good, so when an enemy calls you chicken, and you're gliding across the city, you just have this weird incentive to go beat them up. Spider-Man's quips are always funny. Whether he's questioning something or taking expensive criminals, he's constantly keeping his lines fresh, while simultaneously being badass at the same time. Also, he interacts with enemies, actually making you see the human in them. I love Spider-Man's self-awareness as well. The fact that there's not enough lines, so the player might have some quips that he's heard before. Spider-Man makes you smile and feel badass, so Spider-Man basically cheats this point. Oh my god, that's annoying. Batman Arkham City stealth is good. It's just good. It's revolutionary, but it's not the best stealth system in the world simply because of one problem. Variation is encouraged, but it's not needed. If you wanted to, you could just invert, take down everyone from gargoyles and walk up on enemies from behind and be completely fine. Whilst enemies can shoot off gargoyles, which is a great piece of enemy interaction, I rarely go in a situation where they shoot all the gargoyles off. May I add that the enemy that can sense your heat signature on gargoyles is genius, which is why I hate there's a fact that there's an upgrade later in the game that makes the enemy useless. Nevertheless, when you put in situations where you'd have to improvise, the stealth sections are great fun. This is because the enemy AI is so goddamn good. In fact, this is no longer called Batman Arkham City vs Spider-Man PS4. This is now called Top 5 Ways You Can Neutralize Enemies in Batman Arkham City Stealth. The Weapon Jam Smash. This is when you're taking out every enemy in the room, and you want to take down the enemy in the most badass way possible, which is using your disruptor to jam his weapon. He shoots at you with his weapon, and it doesn't fire, so his weapon suddenly apologizes before the enemy is Hulk smashed to the ground. Throw a sonic batarang that makes a noise towards a window, attracting the enemy towards it, and then grab him through the window and smash his face in. The Shocker. Shoot an electrical charge at the generator to give electric shock towards the enemies that are around it. The Web Kick. Inspired by Spider-Man. All you have to do is get your line launcher and kick an enemy off a ledge in a gloriously hilarious fashion. And finally, the Mine Takeout. This is when you get multiple enemies and a single mine and proceed to blow them all up. Okay, yeah, you get my point. There's a lot of variety in the gadgets, the environments are well detailed and encourages different forms of play, despite the player not having to conform to most of the time.
Oh, no, 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 no. Oh, no, 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 no.
Okay, so this is one of the worst stealth systems I've actually seen in the game. The Amazing Spider-Man games actually did a better job on these stealth sections. It's just cause it's so simplistic and bare bones. The gadgets from Batman Arkham City work a lot better in these stealth sections compared to Spider-Man, because there's a much larger variety of gadgets for Batman to use at his disposal. In Batman, there are a lot different enemy types that actually matter, and they actually respond to what you do. But in Spider-Man, you can fully use gadgets to have a loud encounter and still not realize you're in stealth mode. If you have to put a safe label to see if you've taken down an enemy, I think you need to rework your stealth system. This is such a blatant, insulting afterthought. Spider-Man wishes it could be Batman. Batman gets this point. What about the Mary Jane stealth sections? And due to calculating the scores, Batman comes out on top? Oh my god, I actually didn't expect that. That is not me saying that I don't love these games though. Both of these games are some of the most outstanding open world superhero games of all time. To compare them to one another is clearly really hard, but you can see by this almost 40-minute video. But we can end it off like this. If you want a game with unique but dark narrative with amazing levels relating to interior, with really fast and hard combat and good stealth, go for Batman Arkham City. If you want an extremely open, huge world with one of the best traversal systems in history, with a great accessible combat system and lovable characters, get Spider-Man. I am a really biased Spider-Man fan, so I didn't really think this would be the outcome. But hey, I guess Batman's still awesome. It's not like this is purely based off opinion or whatever.